Hello everyone, so let's get started. Here I will write npm create with at latest, and I will write dot so that everything will be installed inside this folder. Here let's choose React, then JavaScript, and let's write npm install. Now we need to use Tailwind CSS. For that, we can visit their website. So let's do it. So here we need to click Get Started. And since we use Vite, we're in the right place. So let's copy this command and put it in our terminal. Now let's copy this. And inside vite.config.js file, we need to put it right here. Then we need to copy Tailwind CSS, and inside this array, we need to use this Tailwind CSS. So let's save and close this file. We also need to import Tailwind CSS. So inside this source folder, we can find this index.css. Here we can remove everything and paste this import Tailwind CSS. So let's save it. Now we can write npm run dev. And let's open it. So here it is. Now I will split my screen. Okay. Now we can delete this app.css because we don't need it. And inside app.j6, we can also remove all these lines. And here I will create a div. And I will say React, frequently asked questions, and Accordion. I will copy it and save this file. As you can see, it is here. So we need to reset the styles. It should have happened automatically, but I think that if we refresh the page, everything will be fine. Okay. Now inside this index.html, we can change this title. It's completely up to you, but I like doing it. And here, as you can see, we have React, frequently asked questions, Accordion. Okay, now let's close the tabs that we don't need. Okay, and let's work with this app.j6 component. So here I want to apply some styles. Here I want to say that this div is gonna take the whole screen. So I will say min height will be screen, background color will be gray 900. So let's save it. Here it is. Let's say that padding will be 4. And for now, I will say that text will be white so that we will be able to see our title. Okay, let's say that on medium screens and higher, we want our padding to be 8. So let's save it. So now if I make the screen bigger, the padding will also be bigger. So as you can see, here it is. Now if I remove it, you can see that the padding is different. Okay, so you can always hover over and see. So in this case, as you can see, it is 768 pixels. Okay, now let's say that it will be flex, justify will be center, and items will be center. So each will be right in the center. Now I want to wrap this text in h1 tag. And let's apply the following styles to it. Let's say that text will be 3XL. On medium screens and higher, it will be bigger, it will be 4XL. And let's say that font will be bold. Then we also want its color to be purple 500. Okay, and here I want to remove this React and say just frequently asked questions Accordion. Now we need to create a component where we will handle all the functionality and all the items that we're gonna have. So inside this source folder, let's create a new folder called components. And here I will create a new component called accordion.j6. Here, using these shortcuts, as you can see, now we have a basic functional component. So using this shortcut, I can have the following, as you can see. So let's save it. If you don't know how to do it, you need to make sure that you have an extension called, let me type it. You need to have this extension, and after that you'll be able to use that kind of commands, that kind of shortcuts. Okay, so let's use this accordion component inside this app.j6. So under this h1 I can import this component, and here it is. As you can see, here it is. But we don't want our layout to be like that, so we can wrap these two in one div. And let's apply the following styles to this h1. We can say that margin bottom will be 8. Then to this div, we can say that its max width will be 2xl, and we want its width to be full. So let's save it. And as you can see, now we have this layout. But at the same time, we want our h1 text to be in the center. So let's say that text will be center. Okay, now we need some data to work with. So I will just paste some data. So here you can see that we have this data. It's an array, and we have only 3 items. Each object has its own ID, question, and answer. So we can take this data and pass it to this component by saying data and then the name of this variable, which is frequently asked questions data. So let's put it here and save it. Now inside this accordion, we can take access to it by saying data. Okay, here we can use state, and we need to create some states. So let's do it immediately. Here we can say active items, then set active items. So let's use state, and by default it will be an empty array. Then we need to know whether we want to allow multiple or not allow. So if at the same time we want our user to be able to see multiple items. So for that we need this state. And here by default it will be false. Now to this div, let's apply the following styles. Let's say that background color will be gray 800. It will be rounded. So in this case it is 12 pixels. And let's add some padding, which will be 6. So let's save it. And as you can see, we have the following. Now we can create a div. And inside this div, we want to have one more div. And inside this div, we want to have an input. Its type will be checkbox. Its ID will be multi-expand. And whether it was checked or not, we will refer to this state by saying allow multiple. Then when we click it, we can say on change. We want to change its state to the opposite of what it was. So if it was true, it will be false. If it was false, it will be true. And now let's create a label to this input. So we can say label. And here we can write this text. We can say allow multiple open. Here, if we say HTML4, we need to provide this multi-expand because we named it to be multi-expand. So let's save it. And as you can see, here it is. So now if we click just this text, as you can see, it is checked because we created this label, and this label is for this multi-expand. And as you can see, this input has this ID, and the value of its ID is multi-expand. So that's why we can do it. We can click either this input itself or this text. And also under this div, we can create a button. Here we want to write collapse all. So if there is at least one open item or a few open items, using this button we'll be able to close them, but it has to be collapse. Okay. So when we click this button, we always want to set active items to be empty. So let's save it. Okay. So now let's add some styles. So to this div, which contains this div and this button, we can add the following styles. We can say that it will be flex, justify will be between, and let's say that items will be center. Now to this div, we can say the following styles. We can say that it will be flex and items will be center. Now to this input, let's add the following styles. Let's say that width will be 4 and height will be 4. So let's save it. Okay. Now to this label, let's add the following styles. Let's say that margin left will be 2. Text will be small. And its color will be gray 300. Okay. Now let's style this button. Let's say that background color will be blue 600. Padding horizontally will be 3, vertically will be 2. On hover, we want background color to be a bit darker, to be 700. Okay, then we want it to be rounded, so it will be rounded medium. Text will be small. And when it is disabled, we want its opacity to be 50, and when it is disabled, we want cursor to be not allowed. And in what cases can it be disabled? It can be disabled if active item's length is 0. So let's write disabled if active item's length is equal to 0. Right now its length is equal to 0. So it has to be disabled. As you can see, it is disabled. And when I hover over, you can see that it is not allowed. Okay, now under this div, we can create one more div to display our items, our questions and answers to them. So here we can see data.map. Here we can see item. And we can create a div. Each div should have a unique key, so we can say that item.id. By doing this, each div will have a unique key. As you remember, each object here has its own ID. Inside this div, we want to have a button. And here for now, we can show item.question. So let's save it. As you can see, here we have our questions. And also we want to have an icon. So for that, first of all, we can wrap this item question inside a span tag. And now we want to have one more span tag. And here I will paste that icon. So let's save it. Let's save it again. And as you can see, we have this icon. Okay, so let's start applying styles. So to this div, let's apply the following styles. Let's say that we want to have border, and border color will be gray 700. It's gonna be rounded. Okay, and at the same time, we want to see that we want to have here margin bottom to be 6, so that we have some space here. Okay, so let's add some styles to this button now. Let's say that width will be full, it's gonna be flex, and justify will be between. Okay, And also we want items to be center, and let's add a padding which will be 4. Let's say that background color will be gray 700, and on hover we want the color to be 600. Okay, let's say that it's gonna be cursor pointer. And we want the hover to be smooth, so we say that it's gonna be 300, and then we want to say what exactly needs to be smooth. We want to say that it is for colors, so let's save it, and as you can see, now it is smooth. So let's add some space between these items. For that, we can come to this div and say that space vertically will be 3. Okay, to this span, let's add the following styles. Let's say that font will be medium and text will be gray 100. Okay, now let's add some styles to this span. So let's say class name, but some of our styles will be conditional. So we need to use curly braces and backsticks. And here, let's say that text will be gray 400. And we want to rotate our icon. So for that, we can say transform. And also we want it to be smooth. So we want to say that transition will be for transform. And we want it to be smooth. So its duration will be 300 milliseconds. And then we need to check, we need to say the following. If active items includes this item's ID, then we want to apply these styles. If not, we want to apply these styles. So if the array called active items includes this item's ID, this current item's ID, then we want to say rotate by 180 degrees. If not, we want to leave it as it is. We will take care of this includes an item.id a bit later. So, we will create a function that will control it. For now, we want to leave it as it is. Okay, so let's save it and nothing will change. As you can see, it is still like that, even if I click. Now, under this button, we need a place where we want to show answer to an item. So we can create a div. And here, let's also create a div. And here we want to show an answer. So here it is. Let's apply some styles to this. Let's say that padding will be 4. Background color will be gray 800. But as you can see, it doesn't make any difference. So we can remove it. And let's say that text will be gray 300. Okay, now to this div, which contains this answer, we can add the following styles. Again, some of our styles will be conditional, so we need to use curly braces and backsticks. So we want to use grid, and then we want to say transition all, and duration will be 300. And our timing function, we want to use this is in out. There are a lot of options, but I want to use this one. Then, if active items array includes this item's ID, we want to apply these styles. If not, we want to apply these styles. So if it is true, we want to say grid rows will be equal to 1 fr. So what does it mean? So it creates a grid with one row, and that row takes up all the available vertical space. Okay, it takes up all the available vertical space. But if this statement isn't true, we don't want this row to take all the available space. We want it to be hidden. So we want it to be 0. So we want these items to be hidden. But now, even if I save the file, the answers will still be visible. So as you can see, they are still visible, but we expect them not to be visible because this statement isn't true. So for that, we can use div and let's paste it here. And here, all I need to do is to say overflow to be hidden. And now, as you can see, they are gone. And we have what we need. Now, even if I click, as you can see, nothing is happening. Okay, so now we need a function that is gonna open and show us an answer that we need. So let's create a function called toggle item. So let's say toggle item. It's gonna accept an ID. And here we want to say set active items. We need to get access to the previous version because it is important. And here we want to say if previous one includes this ID, this incoming ID, then we want to do something here. Else, we want to do something here. So if previous version of active items includes this incoming ID, we want to say return previous.filter. And here we want to say item ID, for example, and then item ID, which isn't equal to this ID. So it means that we want to keep all the items IDs which are not equal to this ID. So imagine a situation where, for example, we have this item which is open. So imagine that it is open. Then when I click it with the intention to close it, I'm gonna pass its ID to this function. So it's gonna check if previous version includes this ID. Since it is true, since it includes, we want to filter this ID out and keep only IDs which are not equal to this one. It means that active items will not include the ID which we will pass here. And then, thanks to that, we will hide the answer. Why? Because here we have this if active items includes, then we want to show it. If not, we don't want to show it. So that's how it works. Okay, so if this priv includes this ID, we want to do this. If not, in this case, we can do the following. So if allow multiple is true, we want to do this. We want to return all the previous IDs and add this ID to them. So it means that we're gonna have 2 or 3 IDs. So just imagine a situation where I can click this. It means that I'm gonna take this item's ID and put it inside active items. And while it's still open, I'm gonna click this and then we're gonna check previous includes this ID. No, it doesn't include. Then we're gonna come here. If allow is multiple, yes, it is multiple. Then we want to keep that previous ID and add this one ID to it. Okay, but if it is not true, then we want to say else and just return ID. So now let's imagine a situation where we just want to open one item. For example, I want to click this, then what's gonna happen when we call this function? It's gonna check if previous includes ID. No, it doesn't include. Then we're gonna come here. If allow multiple is true, no, it is not true, because let's imagine that it's not true, okay? So if it is not true, then we just want to return this ID. It means that inside these active items, we just want to have this one ID and it's gonna be open. Then let's imagine a situation when it is open and I want to close it and allow multiple open is false. So I click it again, then we check it again and it becomes true. Then we just want to filter out this ID and then this statement will no longer be true and our answer will be hidden. So now let's copy this function and actually use it. So here we have this button. So let's say on click, we want to use this callback function and say toggle item item.id. So let's save it. Now let's say that I want to open it. And as you can see, it is open. Now if I click this, it is open, but this one automatically is closed. Okay. Now let's say that I want to allow multiple open. And then let's click this. And as you can see, now we have multiple open items. Let's click this button. And as you can see, everything seems to be working. So that's it, guys. If you find this video at least a little helpful, please hit the like button and subscribe to this channel if you haven't done it yet. Thank you. I really appreciate it.